So today I'm teaming up with Mr. Beast, Mark Rober, and a bunch of other creators for Team Water. We're raising $40 million to reach 2 million people in need. Just like Team Trees and Team Seas, we're trying to improve the world, but we need your help. 100% of the money we raise together is going to go to a charity led by Water Aid, and it's going to bring clean water to communities all around the world for decades. And today in this video, I'm going to show you exactly the places that need our help. But if you want to donate, head over to teamwater.org. That's in the description down below and in the pinned comment. Now, sadly, still 1 out of every 10 people on Earth lack access to clean drinking water. And chances are this problem is not that far from you. Team Water is actually looking to improve the water situation in 5 continents. The only 2 continents that have this down don't really count. You got all of Australia and then Antarctica, who's not even on this map. From Moldova in Europe to Nicaragua in North America, or Peru in South America, or the many African countries. We have the opportunity to help out all these places. Now, the way typically this information is broken down is by per population in each country. It obviously doesn't matter that every inch of a country has water access. The Sahara Desert, for example, doesn't need every inch to have water access. But the problem is there are still huge percentages of populations all around the world that do not have any clean water. And the situation is only getting worse with climate change. What's interesting is there's a lot of different ways to break down this information, and certainly this is changing on a daily basis. Certain situations get a lot more dire, for instance, if like a really bad natural disaster occurs. It's just very difficult to keep up with all this. For instance, I don't think this map is always accurate. I know for a fact there are parts of Mexico that sometimes lack clean water as well. So it's hard for us to know the exact figures at all times. However, the real issue is when certain places and certain large percentages of their population lack water because of infrastructure. Now, that infrastructure could mean a whole lot of different things. Every single place that lacks water is going to need different solutions depending on their climate, their weather, their geography of where they're located, how far they are from other fresh water sources. It gets really messy. And like I said, this problem is only projected to get far, far worse into the future as global temperatures continue to rise. Obviously, new countries and new segments of their population will likely be affected in the future, but for the countries that are already affected right now, things are expected to get so much worse. Just one of the many countries that are most often cited when it comes to these statistics is the Democratic Republic of Congo. The figure varies slightly, but we're estimating only 20% of that population have access to clean water. In the nation of Chad, only 6 out of 100 people have access to safely managed drinking water. Like I said in the beginning, this is not just a thing that's affecting a singular continent though. There's a certain country on the list that it's so depressing that they don't have access to clean drinking water. That is the Pacific island nation of Fiji. Yes, you heard that right. The fact that Fiji isn't at 100% is crazy. No one would expect this either because everyone drinks Fiji water. How depressing and ironic. And a neighboring country not too far away as well, Papua New Guinea, also heavily affected by this. Depending on the source, Papua New Guinea is often cited as like in the top 3 with having the biggest population without clean water. And we need to talk about improved water sources. That can be anything from piped water connections, protected wells, boreholes with hand pumps, even packaged or delivered water. That's probably the thing that I've heard about the most. A guy will come every single morning and drop off like a bunch of jugs of water in these very small villages. And this is all you get. This is everything from water to shower water to washing your hands to brushing your teeth. That's it. It's just this jug of water. Now, according to Our World in Data, the country that is in the most dire need is the Central African Republic, that in 2022 they were only at 6%, and actually their rates went worse from 20 years ago, going from 8.5% to 6.1. We have nations like Chad, Tuvalu, again, that's another island nation, Sierra Leone, Tanzania, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Ethiopia, Kiribati. The island nations are killing me. You just don't assume that an island nation doesn't have access to clean drinking water because they're surrounded by water, but of course can't do much with seawater. We all gotta keep in mind that 97% of Earth's water is saline, more commonly known as seawater, basically. That leaves all of humanity, all like 8 billion people, with only 3% fresh water. The vast majority of that is gonna come from ice caps and glaciers, that's 68%, 30% is groundwater, and then 0.9 is other. Again, like I said in the very beginning, climate change is only going to very clearly make our situation's so much worse, because if the ice caps melt, then we're losing access to a lot of the fresh water even possible on the Earth. And out of that entire wheel, 0.3% is surface water, which out of that, that's 87% coming from lakes, 2% from rivers, and then 11% from swamps. When you put it like this, we're clearly not in the greatest situation out there. Now, mind you, yes, 2/3 of the earth is water alone. So this is not that big of a deal, called the saline, but the problem continues to get worse and worse as you kind of scroll down and figure out all these different water sources could be at risk. A common misconception too is that if your nation has access to, one of the biggest rivers in the world or even just your continent, then you should be fine. I mean, for much of the island nations that lack clean drinking water, that is their issue. They don't really have much of a fresh water source, but they also have a similar issue to everyone else. Let's say for the Congo, a lot of that water can be contaminated, and there's lots of different ways to contaminate water. We're literally doing it like every day. Like sometimes it's a geographical reason why certain segments of population, don't have clean drinking water, and then other times it's just contamination, or maybe even worse, they used to have access to drinking water, now not so much, whether that be that the water source just ran out, or there could be because of conflict. Also, something else I'm keeping in mind is all the countries, we're seeing pop up regularly so far in this video. Those are the countries that are willing to let us know, hey, we're struggling here with water. There's a lot of countries that don't want to let us know. There's definitely segments of China, India, and even the USA, yes, the USA, that don't have drinking water. Now, it might not be a massive percentage of population. It could be a very small percentage, but that still sucks. Here's a map showing different river basins in the world, but again, it's kind of very misleading. If you just looked at this image, you'd think, oh, looks like literally every place has access to probably fresh water if there's a river basin here. That is definitely not how this works. However, this is still a very intricate map. Whether you're shown to have a massive river basin in your region or not doesn't really affect the fact that you could still have huge populations that don't have water. Again, water to drink, water that is fresh. Another example here. These maps are beautiful. I've definitely covered these maps before. I love covering these maps because they're very fascinating, but it doesn't reveal the reality of the way the world works. Generally, it's just not recommended to drink river water. Like you don't want to do it. Some rivers you're probably going to be a bit safer than others, though. I will say, if I got the choice, then I would definitely like a nice river somewhere in like Nunavut, Canada. I'm definitely going to go ahead and pass on some of the other rivers, though, around the world. This is such an important topic heading into the future because when you look back to the past, the situation has only got worse for a lot of places. Since 1999, there is now more water withdrawal in a lot of countries as a percentage of total water available. Now, a lot of this is going to come down to population increase. Population has increased a lot in the last 30 years, but as a lot of places continue to get hotter, I can't imagine what is going to happen. There are plenty of places projected around the world that by 2040, they will be considered water stressed. It's from the ratio of withdrawals to supply. We could see the USA at very high levels. Meanwhile, parts of Europe being in extremely high levels, like Spain, Portugal, Greece. It really just depends on how bad the situation gets in the next 15 years. And by the year 2050, the situation could get even worse. Again, the projected ratio of human water demand to water availability. How much water do you actually have versus how much is your population? You'll notice a theme here with South Asia, the Middle East, Central Asia, North Africa, and again, it does stretch into Southern Europe. I think we've all been hearing for literally years now in the geography community specifically, though, there could be water wars in the future. Basically, a world where there isn't enough water. And we're talking like lack of water availability in urban populations, in cities. There are certain cities that are probably going to be more affected by this than others. There's a couple here in the US as well. It looks like my home city of Los Angeles, potentially. That's great. That's totally not scary at all. Los Angeles and Houston projected to be two urban centers that could be at risk of lack of water in the 2050s. There's Rio de Janeiro in Brazil is a big spot too. Nigeria is a big one, and for a lot of these countries, you also have to keep in mind, specifically in Africa, they're the place that are projected to grow the most by 2050 and by 2100. If we look at every single population projection, their fertility rate still extremely high. Meanwhile, everyone else's not so much. So something to keep in mind is just the future generation, how long of an impact we can have here. Lagos in Nigeria projected to be at almost 40 million by the year 2050. That's nearly double in size in the next 25 years. And all signs are just showing that this is going to continue to grow. Again, looking at fertility rate of each country is literally like looking into the future. You can figure out what the world is going to look like by the babies that are being born right now. And we saw how bad the water situation was in a nation like Chad, and their fertility rate is six births per woman. And it's like that in the DRC as well, in the Central African Republic, in Nigeria, in in Mali and Burkina Faso. This shows exactly how drastic the situation is about to be leading into 2100. Obviously, right now, Asia is by far and away the continent with the most amount of people. Just with India and China alone, they've got so many people. But by 2100, look at how close Africa gets to the entire continent of Asia. They almost tie in the next 75 years. That is how much this continent is going to explode with population as we get closer and closer to human population being about 11 billion. Like I said in the very beginning, please go check out teamwater.org. Please donate anything you can. This is our chance to make a big difference in the world. Thank you to my patrons this month. Drew seems like the kind of guy who never loses the remote. Drew's Argentinian Trust Fund, Rip Grandpa. Drew Supremacy League. Alexander the Terrible. Carmel S. Connor Pavlik. Douche Baggins. Frederick Tiblin. King. Bear Hayes. Luxembourg Lover. Miglu. The Goat. Nolan. Nord Tyrol. And Tambrin.